Alright, hi everyone. It's Sarah from Sarah's Tarot. I just bumped the camera. I have not been on the YouTube video making grind in like 8 months because of school, but I have a summer off finally, and I'm in my last 2 weeks of school, and I have finals, so I am ready to make more videos. So today I will be doing the hashtag show us your decks challenge, which I'm doing as a VR to Angel over at Feeding Your Soul 1212. And there are 15 prompts. I did all tarot decks for this one, and I'm just gonna get right into it. So the first prompt is a deck that you want to use but for whatever reason hasn't seen any playtime on your desk. And for that, I have the Tarot of the Rose by Zara DeRose, which I got in not too long ago, and I absolutely love this deck. I did not pre-take my decks out, and I apologize for the background noise, but my tarot room is also the plant room, so there are 2 grow tents behind me that have to function, and of course you were just staring at the back as I had to explain it. But here are the fronts of the cards, and it's definitely a collage deck, as you can see, and I really just haven't had any time to use it because there's been a lot going on and I just haven't pulled it out. I've been using decks that are more established in my collection so that I can get a little bit more personal readings, which I've been using 2 decks that I'll get into later. But overall, I love this deck. It's gorgeous. There are flowers on every card, which makes me so happy. Excuse me. Obviously it's Tarot of the Rose, and there are roses all over. And I think it's really well put together. It came out in February, I think, so it hasn't been on the market for too long. But I was so anticipating this deck, and then I was finally able to purchase it. And yeah, that is the Tarot of the Rose by Zara DeRose. The next prompt is the 12th deck from the right on your tarot shelf. And if you've seen my Instagram, which is Sarah's Tarot, shameless self-plug, is that what it is? Yeah, shameless self-plug, because, you know, same name as YouTube. But the next deck, if you've seen my tarot shelves, you know I can't really count 12 from the right. It's also, I organize my decks all the time. But my best attempt got me to the Ophidia Rose Tarot by Layla and Olive, which is another deck that I absolutely love. It comes with this little pamphlet as a guidebook. It has bronze gilded edges. Is it still gilded edges if it's like not the silver or gold or the shiny? Is it? Because this deck is definitely rose petal finish. So does that have a different name for the edges? Random thought. Anyway, this is the Ophidia Rose Tarot, which I got in a really good deal. Someone was selling 3 of the Layla and Olive decks for like $60. And I don't mean $60 each, I mean $60 total. And I was so scared. And I didn't know if there was anything wrong with the decks. And I went to pick them up and she was like, "Do you want to look at them?" And I did, and they were all in brand new condition. So I remember walking away being like, am I ripping this girl off? Like, I feel so bad. But it worked itself out. They were too advanced for her at the time that she was getting back into tarot. So she sold them to me. And she also sold me, I had to look over, the Druid Plant Oracle, I believe. But this is again, Ophidia Rose Tarot, which is the 12th deck from the right on my tarot shelf. And yeah, I got this deck in a really, really good deal. So the next prompt is a deck you're thinking about rehoming. And I would never rehome a deck. The absolute only reason I would rehome the Wild Unknown Pocket Tarot, and I'm not even going to take it out because we all know really what it looks like. It's just the pocket version of the Wild Unknown Tarot. But I was gifted the full-size version by my boyfriend's sister-in-law, which is really special to me. So thank you, Megan. But I would rehome this one if I had to pick either this one or the standard size. And I'm not entirely sure why I got this one in the first place, if I'm being honest, but it is what it is. So the next prompt is a deck that you don't store in its original box and why. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you know I can't go a video without bringing up this deck because it is in this new bag from Johnnicky and Madame Bathsheba at Catamancy Tarot, which I absolutely love. I love the paisley on it. But this deck is the Bonestone and Earthflush Tarot, which I will say it again, I spent so much money on because I bought it last year. My own fault. I wouldn't trade this deck for anything in the world. Except maybe actually no, I was going to say maybe, ooh, I hit the camera again. I was going to say maybe a new copy every few years because I beat this deck up, but then it would lose its magic. So I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. But this, I switched sides I was going on, is the Bonestone and Earthflush Tarot, which I absolutely adore, and you can see the gray kind of matches the gray on the bag. It looks a little bit better in person than it's picking up on camera, but that's normal. I don't store this box in its original, I don't store this deck in its original box because it's one of those boxes that has two sides for the cards to go on, and I don't like that. I like my cards to be in one big pile because I feel like the energy is more spread throughout the deck, we'll say. I guess that makes sense. So I don't keep it in its original box because of that reason. I'd rather the deck all be in one big pile. Also, I'd rather have super easy access to the guidebook because the guidebook is absolutely insane. So, easy access to guidebook. The box isn't set up how I like it. Those are the reasons why I don't keep it in its original box. And I've also been going on a bag kick recently. I bought 10 different bags for my decks, for different decks, from 3 different shops. I bought from one shop twice. I kind of went a little crazy. So the next prompt is a deck with more or less than 78 cards. And I'm sorry to bring this deck up to people who are just getting into the tarot community because it's out of print and will not be coming back in print. And I know we all feel bad when we do that. But this, once I can get it open, my sister made this bag for me, is the Sistine Tarot by Rose Bay, who I absolutely adore. And she is one of my favorite creators. And I have this nice bag for it. But yes, this deck is the Sistine Tarot, which has more than 78 cards, given the fact that it has, I believe, zodiac cards, and what are they? They're 4 pillars of something. It's like hope, charity, and 2 others. But yeah, we just passed Capricorn. Here's Pisces. This is another collage deck that I absolutely love. The nice hum of the tent in the background. Prudence must be another one of them. Yeah, this deck has more than 78 cards. That's the prompt. I usually use this deck more in like Leo season and in the summer months, so I'm excited to get back into it. And I'm going to end on Lana Del Rey because I've been on a Lana Del Rey kick, listening to High by the Beach, because if there's one thing I like to do, it is the first word of that song. So, have to make it work. So that was the Sistine Tarot. And the next prompt is a cloud. It's a cloud, guys. The next prompt is a deck with a cloud on the box, which I am so happy because I don't think a lot of people know about this deck, and I'm pretty sure it's still available. And that is the deck of Celestials, the 2nd edition. And you can see it has these nice pretty clouds on the front. And I think I've said this before. I was the first backer of the 1st edition of this deck. And I wrote that in the guidebook because I didn't want to forget. I absolutely love the creator. I'm totally blanking on her name right now. But the only thing I don't like about this deck, which I'll get into in a little bit, which I didn't realize this prompt is before the next one. I thought it was reversed. But I am too scared to shuffle this. But anyway, these are the cards. They were all drawn on Procreate. And I love this deck. I use the 1st edition as my monthly draws. And again, I have a very special connection with the creator of the deck. So I absolutely love this. I love the colors. Let me get into some of the minors so that you can see how they're kind of pippish. They're definitely pippish. They're, what's the word? I forget. The pips represent the card meaning. So it's not like a fully Marseille deck. I'm totally blanking on the word. Like I said, High by the Beach. But this is the deck of Celestials, the 2nd edition, which, if I remember correctly, is more colorful and some of the cards are redrawn. Like the sword suit is redone, which I love. And the pentacles are now stars, which is also really cute. So that is the deck of Celestials, the 2nd edition, a deck with a cloud on the box. And the next deck, or the next prompt, is a deck you've never shown on your channel. And that is the Good Puppy Tarot deck, which I got on AV Market, which, if you don't know what AV Market is, they're a fantastic tarot deck resale shop, I'm gonna say, on YouTube, on Etsy. So this is where I'm gonna get into my quick little rant. I am too scared to shuffle this deck because it has the stars. The stars are so pretty, and I did just watch a video from Lisa where she had a deck that had the same effect on the outside, or on the border of the deck, and she said that it still looks really pretty when you shuffle it, but that doesn't convince me. I am so sad that it'll go away, and I don't know if when you put them back in order, if the stars are still there, or if it's like a one-time thing. I don't think that makes sense, but it may. You tell me. But yeah, this is the Good Puppy Tarot deck, which is just a bunch of little puppies. And they also have a version called the Good Dog Tarot deck, which is where all the dogs are grown up and they're all like standard size, and it's so cute. And oh no. And I really want that deck also, but I could only get one, and I decided to get the puppies. because I am a huge animal lover. My dog is quite literally sitting at my feet right now, licking my legs, and she needs to stop, but I wouldn't trade anything for her, just like this deck. And the next prompt is a deck with another animal besides a lion as the strength card. And quite literally, 2 hours before watching this video, I was watching someone else's and they chose the same deck, but I'm going to go with it anyway because I didn't have time to relook in my collection. But I'm going to go with Tarot of the Huntress by Kara Small. I had to think of her name, but I'm pretty sure it's Kara Small who has made these, or these meaning Tarot of Persephone's Garden and Tarot of the Huntress. And this is the strength card, obviously. There is a deer or a moose. I honestly can't, it's not a moose, I know that. There's a deer. There's a deer on the card, guys. If you couldn't tell, it is not a lion. And I love this deck because I feel very connected to Artemis, and I have for most of my life. Like, even as a small child, as soon as I learned Greek mythology, I was connected to Artemis right off the bat. So this deck was really special when I got it, and I knew I had to get it. And there's not really much more I can say about this deck besides that I love it, and the Queen of Swords is my significator card. So that is that. The next prompt is a deck that comes in a box inside another box, and I only have the inner box with me, but I went with the Tarot Arthurian by Claire Duval and the illustrations by Anna Torian, which after I wrote all my choices, after I looked through my collection, I realized I chose 2 Anna Torian decks, which just shows how much I love her and her artwork. But this is a deck that comes inside a box within another box. This is the French version. I forget if I bought it from Amazon France or if I was able to get it from Amazon US. But I bought this and the Lumina Tarot together, and they both come with a box inside a box. And the French edition of the Lumina Tarot. And I was like, wow, this is a really large package. And yeah, it was because it had 4 boxes in it, technically. But this deck, I've been really wanting to work with more after I picked it up for this video, because it shuffles really well. The artwork the faces seem less intense than the Bonestone and Earthflesh Tarot, which I think I kind of need more right now, because lots of family stuff, and even some tarot drama, actually, which I may or may not get into. But basically, no, I'll get into it a little bit. Basically, this girl texted me and was like, can I have a reading? And I was like, sure. And then she asked me probably 60 questions. Probably 15 of them were repeats of questions that she had already asked. And it was about a relationship. And I, in the end, was like, girl, you need a spiritual healer or like a spiritual medium or something. I am not that. I can't provide that service for you. And now I'm gonna leave. So if for any reason my name starts to get shit talked by some random person, it's because of that. And if you want to look at the messages, you can, but I was not charging her. She was taking full advantage of me, and I had to cut it off. So yay. Anyway, the next prompt is a deck that would not appear in your top 10 favorites. And the only reason that the Black Sea Tarot would not be seen in one of my top 10 videos, top 10 favorites videos, probably no matter what the prompt is because I love Teresa Hutch. I much prefer the White Sage Tarot to the Black Seed Tarot. And I didn't get out my White Sage Tarot, but I have the one that comes in a tin. I do love this Lover's card though. It's very, very cute. But it comes with the Chakra card. And I don't know. I enjoy the Chakra cards and the ribbons and the meaning of the White Sage Tarot. Wait, I love polar bears. I'm keeping this card to the side. I forget what I was saying. I would hold this deck second to the White Sage Tarot because the White Sage Tarot, I like how it has the ribbon in it and it's more obvious than in this deck. And I feel like I'd have to go through this deck and look at the court cards. But usually the courts are the same in one suit. Or are the same animal. Or maybe the entire suit is the same animal. No, I don't think that's right. But either way, I just prefer the White Sage Tarot, which is why this deck would not be on a top 10 favorite list. Unless maybe it was top 10 decks that are by Teresa Hutch. But there are only 4 of them. Uh-oh, my card goes on the bottom. There are only 4 decks by Teresa Hutch right now, I believe. So you can make a top 5 list. So technically that doesn't break the prompt. Okay, guys, we figured it out. All right, the next deck is a deck that you associate with the color green. And Quinn from Lucid Moons had my first option, or my first initial thought, which I know that we're allowed to repeat. I know I can do that. But I decided to show you guys something else, which to me is a mass market gem that not many people remember or know about. And I have it in this beautiful bag by Threads with Charms on Etsy. I literally bought like, I think 8 of their bags because they're so nice. But this deck is the Good Tarot by, it may be Colette Baron Reed, but I don't have the box, so I don't remember. But I edged mine in green. These are the backs. They're very pretty green. If you can't tell, I like the color green. Everything has been green recently. But this is the Good Tarot, which I associate with the color green. And I really just want to show a few of the cards because I think this deck is like an, I'm sorry, I keep hitting, I can't tell if the camera's moving or not. But if I keep knocking into it, I'm sorry. I'm going to need to find a new setup. This was kind of impromptu. But this is kind of like an OG collage deck, I feel like. Maybe a little bit. Or maybe photography, rather. I'm not entirely sure. I am not great with media styles. But I love this world card. And what I really want to show off is the pages, I think. No, it must be the knights. I love the knights of this deck because they're stunning. And I'm pretty sure one of them is like the most beautiful person I've ever seen. Sorry guys, I'm gonna do it this way. Was it the page of the messenger? No. It may have been the messenger of fire, but either way, they're all stunning. And that is the deck that I associate with the color green, kept in this green and gold bag to match the green and gold of the backs, which I think is just perfect. And then prompt number 12 is a secondhand, pre-loved, pre-owned, or thrifted deck, which for me, I am going to go with the Children of Litha, which I was actually able to pick up from someone in my college campus, which is really cool. And then I was talking to her and I was like, if you ever want to read tarot or just talk, then let me know. And I think she follows me on Instagram now. So that was pretty cool. I made a nice little friend. So this is a secondhand deck that she had gotten as a gift, or she got another copy of it as a gift from her friend. So she was selling this one for not too much. I think she was selling it for like $16, and I was so scared that it was fake. And when I went to meet her, first of all, she didn't offer, but I asked her if she would hold it for a few days, and she said yes, which was super sweet. So I was like, I'll give you $30 if you hold it for me. Give her double, whatever. It was like, I needed 3 days. So I did that, and then I went through, and I knew the deck was real because it had the bag with it. So in the end, I ended up giving her, I think, $40 for it because I didn't want to rip her off. This deck is like $55, and she was super duper sweet. So I got this deck secondhand, pre-loved, only used a few times. I love this card. I'm so glad that I turned to it. I love the shark. I don't think I've looked through this deck enough yet. So is this, I'm assuming, is the animal inspired one, and then Children of Ostara is the plant inspired one, which is good to know because I was not sure about that. So that is the Children of Litha tarot. Right, this is Litha, yes. For a second, I confused myself. All right. And the next prompt 13, is a deck in your collection with the most used guidebook. And like most people, for me, that's the deck that I use the most. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you know I'm gonna go with my one and only true love. Sorry, boyfriend. No, I'm kidding. But this is my one true tarot deck love that I know if anything happens, this deck will be there for me. And that is the Shadowscapes Tarot. And I won't spend too long on it because it's been around for a while. But I will go on the rant about how Stephanie Puimunlaw is having her second deck, the Verdance Tarot, released in, I believe, September. And I am so beyond excited for that deck because her artwork is some of my favorite. Every card, every time I look at it, I see something new. And that's not an exaggeration. Literally every time, look at that tower. Every time I look at a card and really focus on it, I see something new. And I could probably recite half of the guidebook if I really needed to, because I simply just love this deck beyond words. And this was the second deck that I ever got, and you can see it's quite beat up. I spilled Diet Coke on this one. I spilled Diet Coke on this deck, and then my friend spilled water on the third deck that I ever got. So my Shadowscapes and my Sassarabito Tarot decks are kind of mad at me. And I thought that was the world. I want to end on the world if I can find it. Because I love her. No, we'll end on the lovers. So that is the Shadowscapes Tarot. And I will put her away in a little bit. All right, 2 more. A deck with water on the box. I know there was at least one other person who went with this as their choice, but I have the Journey Tarot, which I got from A Riffle in Time from Cassandra from her shop. I remember I was at a concert and she posted that this deck was coming in, and I literally texted her on Snapchat and was like, I need a copy. I think she was only getting 5 in, and I was like, please, 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 can I get one? And she was like, yes, of course. And she sent it out the next day. It got there like 2 days later. This deck is absolutely stunning. And besides it being a little thick, there is nothing wrong with this deck. The cardstock is so nice, and it doesn't seem to bend. It seems to hold the straight shape pretty well. Honestly, I haven't used this deck a lot recently. This is one of my water decks, and I haven't been focusing on like water, really. It's been more of like a Pentacles and Swords life for the past few weeks. But once I start going back to water decks, I need to go and pick this up off my shelf because I love this deck so much. It's so beautiful. I love that Fool card. And 15 is the Pans. And it has this card in it, which is a chakra card. It's, oh my gosh, a mermaid. I love mermaids. It's just so, I want to say simple, but I mean simple in terms of like color palette and design. Like the idea of it is simple, but it's intricately put on the card, and there's a lot of detail in the card, which I think is really cool. So that is the Journey Tarot, which is a deck with water on the box, and the box is actually really cool because on the outside you can see the girl laying in the water, and then on the inside you can see the underneath of it. So very, very cool box. And the last deck is a deck with your most favorite card ever and why. And I think I'm one of the few people who knew exactly what deck I was going to pick and exactly what card I was going to choose. Because if it's not the Queen of Cups in the Shadowscapes deck, it's a card from the Cosmic Visions Tarot by one of my all-time favorite artists, Jessica, oh my gosh, what's her last name? Shackleton. I knew it started with an S. I was going to say Jessica Swift, but she does the Animal Allies Tarot, Oracle decks. So this is the Cosmic Visions Tarot. I have the edition with the white borders, but there was also one with black borders. I need to look for the card, but for now we're just going to go through the deck because every single card in this deck is pure magic. First of all, I love the cardstock. It's definitely rose petal, but it feels like a different rose petal, and the edges are on really well. They do smudge a little bit like you can see in this card, but that was also from when I had just gotten the deck in. So this is the Cosmic Visions Tarot. She is now a tattoo artist in Australia. And if I lived in Australia, I texted her this. I said, just so you know, if I lived in Australia, you would have all my money. Because I literally would be covered in her tattoos. And I'm already covered in tattoos. But hers would just seal the deal. I would be like a fairy. Go look her up. Cosmic Visions Art on Instagram. But back to the deck. I love how the deck is black and white and then has the rainbow just somewhere in it. And I think it's really cool in cards kind of like the Ace of Cups, like the Eight of Cups. This one is really cool. I don't know, they're all really cool. But in cards where it's like showing spilling out and like overflow or something falling, like those kinds of cards are super duper pretty. So the card I'm looking for is actually not a card that is in a normal tarot deck. I love the Fool. If I can show you guys, I have a tattoo of someone getting abducted. So that's kind of cool. I haven't realized that before. But like the star with her hair flowing down is really pretty. The card that's my favorite is not a card that's in a typical tarot deck. It's actually the extra, here we go. The extra major arcana card in the deck, which is the Divine. And this I have a sticker of on my water bottle also, that I still have on my water bottle from so long ago. This was a Kickstarter in like 2021, I want to say. But I love this card. I love the Divine. I love how she's pouring rainbows out of her head and her fingertips and her feet. And there's a flower on her chest. And I want to get a sunflower tattoo. But I love that she's covered in vines and just exuding all that positive energy. So that is my favorite card, probably of any deck that I have. And this is my favorite art style deck of any deck that I have, I think. So there you have it. That is my VR to Angel's Show Us Your Decks tag. I'm kind of on a roll right now. I feel like I'm on a roll. So I may make another video. But if not, I will see you guys soon, I hope. And I hope that you have a great day.